I assume we haven't had any discussion with municipalities at this point in time.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Rettman, I have been speaking to them for the last several years about the voting equipment replacement and about our desire to at least get some of this grant money to help them pay down their costs. So they are all aware of that.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Thank you. Roll call.
Bennett?
Yeah.
Carter?
Yes.
McDonough?
Aye.
Ortega?
Aye.
Parker? Aye. Rettman?
I hope so. Yes.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Just remember, I'll be watching this.
The next one is 10.3. This is the salary schedule and grade allocation for an assistant manager, property records and revenue. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Commissioner Rettman.
Madam Chair, when I first looked at this, I had like 7 questions, and Gail Blackstone actually answered a few of them. However, it did not answer my biggest issue. When the position to eliminate a manager position was made, when the decision was made to do that, the reality is we still needed more people to do the real work. With all due respect, management is real work, but you also needed people that were doing the work of records and revenue. And remember, it continues to be something that we want to get to a threshold that is needed. If this request was to, apparently there's a vacancy that's going to happen at the end of the year that is an assistant manager position, and this is making a different manager position. So it's reinstalling another management position when about a year and a half ago, we made the decision to get rid of that. If it was adding another person to do the work of processing and things like that, I would be so supportive of this. However, this is just adding a management position, and I have a concern over that because it basically rolls back a decision that was made about a year and a half ago, if I recall, which I thought was a wise decision at that time. So even though the money is there because you basically have a retirement, and so the money could be there, is if you hired a person to do the work, the processing work, you'd have about a $20,000 savings or thereabout that might be very excellent to do, that I would really like to see.
Is there any other discussion?
Does anyone want to talk to me on this or make the case? I think someone should, because the case...
I'm thinking Mark should come up here. This is perfect. Commissioner Parker.
Madam Chair, can I just, my interpretation of reading it was different, and so I want to say what mine was, and then maybe Mark can help clarify. My understanding was that 2 manager positions were combined into 1. A different position, a supervisory position, is open that is going to be replaced. And so we're still going from 3 to 2.
But it works in a totally different division.
Okay, Mark, if you could clarify and introduce yourself.
Yes. Mark Oswald, Director of Property Records and Revenue. And Madam Chair, Commissioner Rettman, Commissioners, all of that is correct. What we had was a manager's position that was eliminated with the combination of 2 divisions. And we have a supervisor that is retiring, and we would like to replace that with an assistant manager. The reason being is that the manager is pulled constantly to do work for the county, for the state, for interjurisdictional data, and we're talking about the manager of property tax services, and we use him a lot. He's pulled away, and there isn't anyone to backfill for the coordination of the activities of that now larger division. And so even though we are eliminating 2 supervisory positions, 2 management positions, and backfilling it with 1 for a savings, it's not where we're overloading it. We need to have that coordination within the division to be able to keep things running smoothly.
But wouldn't it be better to have another person doing the work processing?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Rettman, Commissioners, it would be wonderful to have another person doing the work, but if it's not coordinated, it's not efficient. And we need to have the coordination, and we are trying to keep the staff level low enough so that we can be within budget compliance.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, then it was 2 positions, manager and supervisor, going to 1 position, which is about halfway in between.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, in essence, that is correct. The manager's position was eliminated 2 years ago, and we've tried to make that work, and it hasn't. We do not have the efficiencies that we need in that division. And so with that, we've waited until the supervisory position is opening up so that we weren't adding more management. We are now just replacing the supervisor with the assistant manager to be able to coordinate the activities better, more efficient, and bring proficiency and performance improvement to that division.
Are there any other questions? Roll call, please.
Bennett?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Aye.
Ortega?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Rettman?
No.
Reinhardt?
Aye. Next is item 10, excuse me, 10.4. Is there a motion?
No.
You did.
No, there's not one.
Yes, there's a motion. I thought that you had, I saw the numbers differently. I thought you skipped over 10.4, so I was trying to correct you, but you were right. Madam Chair, I would like to move this.
Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second, and this is about the Ramsey County Library Board's recommendation regarding services in Arden Hills and New Brighton. And before we start the discussion, I want to recognize...
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I want to... you're just getting in the queue, right? Okay. I want to recognize some folks that are in the audience. Also, I want to frame this up a little bit because this isn't a public hearing. This is a decision that comes before us as the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners. We do have a tradition, however, of allowing elected officials to present to the county board, and so there will be, it's my understanding that there are a couple of people that will be coming up to speak that are elected officials. I also am going to recognize some other folks that are in the audience that are members of the task force and other folks from the community. I would like to make sure that people understand the difference between the Ramsey County, Suburban Ramsey County Library Board and the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners. We all know that the people are different, but the charge that we have is very different as well. The Library Board is responsible for the facilities and making decisions about the facilities. The Ramsey County Board's role in all of this is about the financing of those decisions. So what we have before us today is something that goes back to 2003 when we began the discussion about library services in the northwest section of Ramsey County. And I know that there are a lot of people that have worked on this over the last 7 years, 7+ years. And so what the decision before us today is one about the library board's recommendation. And that is, if we accept that recommendation, then we move forward with the funding of this new library in the New Brighton Community Center. That is the recommendation.
They'd come back to us.
Yes, but this sets this in place so that we can get the services going as quickly as possible so there isn't as much disruption of services. If we do not accept this today, then what that means is that the library in Arden Hills closes and that we do not have a replacement in the works for that. If in fact, so whichever decision we make, it's the financial side of it. If we do not accept the recommendation, then the only alternative to the Arden Hills Library closing without a replacement in place, or plan for a replacement in place, excuse me, I've got a cold, I'm struggling a little bit here, is that it would have to come back to us with an addendum for funding, very similar to what happened in North St. Paul, which at the time we did not do, and therefore that's why the North St. Paul Library closed when it did. Subsequent to that, we did come up with a plan for North St. Paul. But I just want to make it clear the difference between, and mostly, again, not really for you, but for the people that are listening here, the difference between what we do as a county board and what the library board does, and what the real decisions are here before us today. Okay, and there's a lot of people that can explain the nuances of that much better than I. So, first I would like to recognize the folks that are in the audience that are, I'll start with the members of the task force. And Paul, and I hope that I am saying these names correctly, Paul Bjerke.
Have them stand.
If you could stand, that would be helpful, and tell me if I've said your name wrong. All right, James Elvey. And the Lindberghs, who have been stalwart supporters. Okay, raising your hand works too. From Arden Hills, we have Pat Clares. City Council member Fran Holmes. From New Brighton, we have City Manager Dean Lauder. Let's see here, Mayor Dean Jacobson, who I understand is
Dave Jacobson.
I'm sorry. And I understand that you're going to be speaking. City Council member Gina Bauman. And David Phillips, also City Council member. Can't see you, but I see that you're waving. Okay, what I would like to do then is Commissioner Parker had her hand up, and then Commissioner Bennett, and we will at some point allow those elected officials that wish to speak to come up and speak. So if you'd like that now, or how would you like to proceed?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to reiterate what you just said about the process, that this has been a discussion that's been going on for a long time. In fact, this morning, Susan Nemitz mentioned to me that she found a memo that was written back in 1997 addressing the issue. So this really has been talked about for a long time. And I remember having discussions with Mary Ann Roos. Remember the former director of the library system, about concerns about the building, the existing Arden Hills building. The library board has been through, I don't know how many hours of discussion and community input in this process. It's just been incredible. The strategic planning process that the library board went through involved many, many public hearings, and they came up with this conclusion that there's not a one-size-fits-all for libraries. Some people really like the big regional libraries and they don't mind driving further in order to get there. Other people really like the community libraries, the libraries that you can walk to and that are easily located in neighborhoods. Now, I want to point out that Ramsey County, when we talk about our smaller community libraries, that to put it into perspective, our libraries are all pretty big. You know, compared with, like, even the city of St. Paul, they have 19 libraries that are almost all smaller than any of ours. And so, you know, just to kind of keep it in perspective, all of our 7 libraries are big, very, very active, popular, you know, they all have a lot of circulation. So when the library board came to the conclusion in their facilities planning that the direction that they wanted to go was to have 3 big libraries, which would be Roseville, Shoreview, and Maplewood. And then the other libraries would be smaller, more community-driven, you know, depending upon the needs and the desires of the local communities. and that they would look towards